All right, guys, here we go. Distance learning day, Algebra 2. All right, so first thing I want you guys to do is create a new note in Notability, and I want you to title that last name, first name, and then you can put Distance Learning Day or DLD. This is where you're going to keep all your notes, your practice problems, and you're going to eventually submit at the end of class today. Couple things to remind you of before we get started here is I want you guys to take notes. So that means every problem that I do, I need you guys to do as well, including all the steps that I include. And they need to be handwritten with your handwriting, okay? One thing is when you're doing a distance learning day, it's really important to play the video, pause the video, rewind, replay the video as many times as you need, especially if you're using an iPad. You're going to need to transition from Notability and back. So playing and pausing and rewinding, I think, will make a lot of this a lot more easy to understand. After you take notes, I'm going to basically walk through 3 problems with you. After you take those notes, there are going to be 2 practice problems at the end. The practice problems at the end are very similar to the 3 videos that the 3 problems that I'm going to do. So everybody should be able to complete them. Once you're done, you're going to submit the notes and the practice problems all as one document to On Campus. It's going to be due by the start of our next class. We're going to be solving polynomials, and it's really important when we solve that we state the total amount of solutions first. After we state the total, we are going to graph to find the real. After we find the real, if there's still solutions that we need to find, imaginary solutions, we are going to divide, and then we're going to solve the remaining quadratic for the imaginary solutions. So this is similar to some stuff we've done in class. Here we go. First up, I went ahead and jumped ahead here just to save time on the video, and I'm asking you guys to find all the roots. So right off the bat, we know the highest exponent's 3, so there's 3 total solutions. I went right to my calculator and I plugged in that equation, as you can see right here. I graphed it, hitting zoom 6. And I got that it intersects the x-axis once at x equals 4. So, since x equals 4 is a solution, we are going to divide the original by x minus 4. Okay, so these are sort of opposites of one another. So when we're doing synthetic division and we're dividing by x minus 4, remember the number on the outside is positive 4. We're going to set this up and do 1, negative 4, 3, and negative 12. Drop down the 4. We're going to multiply 4 times 1 to get 4. We're going to add to get 0. We're going to multiply to get, again, 0, add to get 3, and multiply to get 12, add to get 0. We said in class that this will always happen, so that's a good sign. Our answer here is x squared plus 3. So x squared plus 3 needs to be solved to find the imaginary solutions. I'm going to do that on the next screen. So x squared plus 3 equals 0. We can use the square root method here and subtract 3 from both sides, and then square root both sides. We got to remember to add in a plus or minus. That's important, okay? And then we get x equals plus or minus. The negative sign becomes an I, and the square root of 3 cannot be simplified, so we get I root 3. We also have our real solution of 4, which we found on our graph, which gives us our 3 total solutions. Okay, next up, again, solve right off the bat. We know that there are 3 total solutions. Again, I'm working pretty quickly because I know you guys are pausing the video, rewinding, replaying. I typed that equation in, I graphed it, I saw that it only crossed the x-axis once at x equals -2. So since x equals -2 is a real solution, we are going to divide by x plus 2. Okay, so if we divide by x plus 2, a -2 goes on the outside. You'll start to see that the number we get from the graph is going to be the number we put on the outside of synthetic. That does always hold true. I'm going to set this up, drop down my 1, multiply, add, and work our way all the way through. Again, we get a remainder of 0. That is always going to happen. I get x squared plus 25 remaining. I have to solve this for my imaginaries. I'm going to do that on the next screen. So x squared plus 25 equals 0. We can again use the square root method here. X squared equals -25. Square root both sides. Remember to add in a plus or minus. That's important. So we get x equals plus or minus. In this case, it's going to be I, but 25 we can reduce down to 5. So it's going to be 5i. So 5i and 2 are our 3 total solutions. Last but not least, I wanted to give you one that had some, a little bit of a challenge to it. So right off the bat, we have 4, that was pretty sloppy. Here we go, 4 total solutions. I went right to my graphing calculator and I got this. Now, since you guys are at home, I don't know how many of you brought your calculators home. What you could do is use Desmos, okay? Desmos will help you graph, and you'll be able to use Desmos to find these 2 points, -3 and +3. So I'm going to take my, now this is where it gets a little bit tricky when there's more than one. If -3 is an answer, that means it comes from x plus 3. I'm going to divide by x plus 3 first. Okay, so divide by x plus 3. So here we go. If x plus 3 is what I'm dividing by, I actually put a -3 on the outside. And here's the trick. We write out the original, and we have to remember to add in zeros for x to the third and for x. So if you don't add those zeros in, because you're missing x to the third and you're missing your x term, if you don't add those in, it's not going to work out. Drop down the 1, multiply, add, all the way through. So again, this will always happen. Okay, so I'm going to write that out. That's x cubed minus 3x squared plus x minus 3. Now, here's what we have to do. We now need to divide out the second solution, which is this one down at the bottom, okay, which is, if 3 is an answer, that means it comes from x minus 3. So I'm going to take my last answer and divide it by x minus 3. Okay, so if I'm dividing by x minus 3, a +3 goes on the outside. And the numbers I'm writing are the numbers from my last answer. I am not writing the original numbers. I'm writing the numbers from my last answer. So I'm going to write out a 1, a -3, a 1, and a -3. And I'm going to go through and do synthetic. And again, this happens. Okay, so I get a remainder of 0. So I get x squared plus 1. So in this problem, there was 4 total solutions. We graphed it and saw that there was 2. So we had to use synthetic division twice. Now, to answer one question, it doesn't matter what order I do the synthetic division in. So if I switch these, I actually would still get x squared plus 1 after doing 2 rounds of synthetic. All right, I'm now going to solve what was left, which was x squared plus 1 equals 0. Again, the square root method is the best way to do this. Okay, so I am trying to make your life easier on this snow day so that you can easily find these imaginary solutions, which in this case would be plus or minus. The square root of 1 is 1, so it would be 1i, which we can just write as I. So we want to include our real solutions, which were positive 3 and negative 3. And now we have 4 total solutions. All right, so again, we went through those 3 problems pretty quickly. I encourage you to pause the video, rewind it, rewatch the problem 1 or 2 times before you move on. I think that's giving you the best chance to be successful for these 2 problems. What I want you to do is find all the solutions for only these 2 problems. So you're doing each of these all the way through. Remember, the highest exponent tells you how many. And then once you know that, the first thing is to graph, the second thing is to divide, and the third thing is to solve. I would bet it would have to do with the square root method at the end. So you can really mirror these to the first 2 problems. So the first 2 problems are identical. Last but not least, once you're done with these 2 practice problems, you're going to turn in your notes for the first 3 problems and these practice problems all as one document to On Campus. Good luck.